What's up, everybody? It's the Power Rankings Podcast, aka the Power Rankings Show. I'm your host, Elliot Harrison, and I am pleased to be joined on this lovely Thursday, beautiful Thursday in Dallas, Texas, by Marcus _ Mosher. Short little pause there. Baby pause. And I just lost your audio. So I don't know what's up with that.
That's
there
because I muted myself. How you
was
doing
like,
today?
what? I'm like looking at my thing.
No,
I'm
we're
like,
good.
Way to go.
How's
I
it
kind of
going?
like you better like that.
Oh, wow.
I'm good. We were lot to get to today. First of all, we had picks. So of course we got the divisional round, the super divisional round. Please, NFL, don't, if anyone in the NFL listens to this podcast, don't even let that become like a thing. We were talking about 80s movies. I think we have a mini power ranking within the power rankings. We're big fans of that. So I think we've got one coming from Marcus at the end of the podcast. Besides that, Marcus and I had a pretty good talk on the phone about some coaching moves and also about something that might win in the NFL, even in this era. So I want to start with some of your coaching takes because we've had some coordinator news in the past few days.
Yeah, we have, I believe, 10 openings for offensive coordinators around the league right now, which is kind of unheard of. Do you ever remember a year where we had so many offensive coordinator jobs up for grabs? We had a couple guys get fired today. Greg Roman out in Baltimore, kind of saw that one coming. Byron Leftwich in Tampa Bay. That one's been rumored for weeks now, both official today. Which one's more surprising to you?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's going to be Leftwich because anytime you watch a Bucs game, you always see Brady and Leftwich like embracing after, they make a big drive at the end of the game. You see Leftwich walk out on the field and go over he seems to be a very involved coordinator with his quarterback. And I think that part of it surprises me a little bit. A lot of people were talking about Byron Leftwich as a head coaching possibility, and perhaps
he withdrew his name. Yeah, he withdrew his name from the Jacksonville search last year. Like they offered him the job, and he said no.
And so I think that one's going to be a little bit, and plus in an era in which, we're having a hard time. The NFL is, that despite the efforts of the Rooney Rule and whatever, we still don't really have enough minority head coaches. Mm-hmm. And so when you see a coordinator get fired, that was rumored to be a guy that would help bolster that, and people thought could be a good head coach in this league. I think it's, I think that one would be more surprising.
Who gets a job faster? Because I got to believe that Greg Roman gets a job pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And let me just circle back and say that with Byron Leftwich, it's not that I didn't think he was deserving and that he should only be a head coach because of the Rooney Rule's failures. It's more that I'm saying that he was a guy that was looked at as kind of one of the next head coaches that was going to get hired. And given that we've already had so much trouble, I say it's not up to you and I.
Yep.
NFL owners have not been hiring enough minority head coaches. It's really surprising to not only have Byron Leftwich drop out voluntarily last year of the head coaching search for Jacksonville, but also now not retain his job as offensive coordinator with the Bucs. I don't know what more is going. What do you think was going on there? Do you think it was just poor season or something else?
I just wonder if it's a different philosophy and fit than what Todd Bowles wanted. Because remember, when Bowles took over this job, he basically inherited Bruce Arians' staff. This didn't happen until later on in the coaching process. So if you're going to keep Bowles as your head coach, you kind of have to let him build his staff, right? And this wasn't his staff. So might just have been a bad fit. I think Byron will catch on. I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody else's offensive coordinator this year. I think he's going to be fine.
Me either. He's still a young guy. He's in his really early 40s. And I think that he's one of those guys that's in the pipeline that it's been discussed a lot because the old excuse, and I'm calling it an excuse for not having more minority head coaches was, there's not a pipeline. Well, he's part of that pipeline, and I think he's proven himself in the league. We're also talking about a former NFL quarterback. I might add. I always found it weird that Byron Leftwich actually started a playoff game against Tom Brady. The 2005 Wild card. I remember that game because Willie McGinnis had like 4.5 sacks or something in that game. I don't know if you remember this game at all.
I do.
I think it was the 05. I think it was the week before the Patriots played the Broncos and Ben Watson caught Champ Bailey from behind. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
But not my favorite Jags playoff win from the 2000s.
Oh,
David Garrard against Pittsburgh. Much better.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think he'll catch on somewhere. And again, Byron Leftwich, a deserving guy. Just talking about Greg Roman, because Greg Roman was there with the 49ers, right, in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
When they were using Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick's legs a lot. And one of the things we talked about the Giants a lot, and I don't want to make this a Giants podcast, but just using the Giants as the poster child for this. I was telling Marcus on the phone that I really think the Giants have an interesting blueprint for how you can win in the NFL, but don't think of it just in terms of the Giants. But if you have a quarterback who can run and you can call designed runs, and you have a good running back, not just a running back by committee, but a running back that can really benefit off the defense having to play 11 on 11. And the example I used with Marcus was Alfred Morris in RG3 back in 2012. Didn't Alfred Morris have like 1,500 yards that year or something?
Bonkers, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, and on top of that, you have a really good interior defensive line with a good pass rusher. As long as you can make your kicks and you don't have a horrible punter, because you're going to be playing a lot of field position, you can beat anybody.
Yeah.
You don't need a great secondary. You don't need great wide receivers. A decent offensive line helps, but just having those things can help you control games. And lastly, the one thing I thought the Giants could really use is that blocking tight end that also is devastating in the pass game. I threw out George Kittle. I thought the name you threw out was interesting.
David Njoku. So let me ask you this. Which team that doesn't have a coach right now, or maybe that does have a coach, is best in position next year to kind of make that leap? Because there's somebody in mind for me that I think could do it, make a Giants-like leap.
A head coach?
Well, I'm just saying a team, right? Because
okay,
I'll give it to you. Like, I don't understand why the Colts didn't hire Jim Harbaugh, bring in Greg Roman, who was the offensive coordinator with the 49ers when Harbaugh was there, bring in Vic Fangio, who was the defensive coordinator back with the 49ers, and then sign somebody like Daniel Jones, who's a free agent, or draft somebody like that. You've already got a great running back. You've got a good offensive line. You've got a really good front four. Why couldn't you replicate that style in Indianapolis?
I think you could. I'm going to cheat on this question. And I'm going to give you another team. If their starting quarterback falters and he didn't play well at the end of this season. Now, this is probably never going to happen because they'd have to go 1-7 with this quarterback before they would bench him. But if the Browns were still playing Jacoby Brissett with Nick Chubb in the backfield and that offensive line that has some good players on it, including one that was named first team All-Pro, a defense that's talented that played a little bit better at the back end of the season, couldn't they play that style of ball? Bully ball, as some people like to call it.
I think they tried to, but the defense just couldn't hold up. And that was the problem in the first half of the year. The defense was so bad. It did get better as the year went on, which we should also mention that. They hired Jim Schwartz to be their defensive coordinator early this week, and I absolutely love that. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns try to do more of that style of football next year.
Just going back real quick to Leftwich, because we both think he's deserving of a job. And again, that one surprised me more than Roman. Any possible destination you could see him going? It's tough, I know, without looking at all the teams in front of you.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets hired to be an offensive coordinator with a defensive-minded head coach. For example, let's say DeMeco Ryans, who's the 49ers defensive coordinator, takes the Arizona job, and he wants somebody young to help build the offense. I think that's where Byron could make a lot of sense.
Well, speaking of the Rooney Rule or its failings, if DeMeco Ryans doesn't get a job, dude, I
think the only way DeMeco doesn't get a job is if he just doesn't like any of the openings. There's just no way that he doesn't get offered multiple jobs during this cycle. And
if he doesn't, there's something, well, there already is something wrong, but like it's 10 times worse, because that guy we talked about being a good player in the league, leadership, the way people talk about him, the way that team played out of its mind this year. Really the only bad game that defense had was against the Raiders. And then before that, I would say the last bad game that team had was against Atlanta when all their guys were hurt.
But really quickly, if you're DeMeco Ryans and you're looking at the coaching jobs that are open, right? Carolina, Houston, Arizona, Indianapolis, and I'm forgetting one more. What's the other one? Denver.
Yeah, Denver.
Which of those jobs is the most appealing? Because I would almost say you might be better off just waiting a year and seeing what else pops up.
That's exactly. It's kind of like you give betting advice and you say, hey, man, you don't need to bet on this game. Walk away from Steelers Panthers. You really don't need to bet on this game. Yeah.
I will say Denver is the one that I would be interested in because the pieces are already there for them to have an awesome defense. And if you can get the right offensive coordinator, and maybe it is Byron, I think that team could be back to being respectable quicker than some of the other franchises.
Oh, I agree with you. And not to mention, if you want to find out if the star quarterback accepted your friend request, you don't need to go down to the locker room. You just go to his office, right?
Yeah,
right
his office hours. You got to make sure you find the
that was, yeah. Come on. All right. I want to get into picks, but I'm just telling you right now, I want you to be prepared because after we do these 4 games, we're not only going to do your mini power rankings, but we're pulling a football card at the end of this podcast. It's been too long. But let's start with the games. What do we got first? Saturday morning.
Well, Saturday afternoon for me.
Excuse me.
We got Jacksonville at Kansas City. The Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites here at home.
I don't know why I'm reacting that way because I probably would have predicted 9.5. But are you comfortable laying your money on Kansas City to cover that? That's my first question. Really comfortable?
Yes. Kansas City historically has been really good in that first home game of the playoffs. They blew out Pittsburgh last year. The offense is healthy and rested. I'll take the Chiefs to win and cover.
Yeah, nothing ever happened to them like, having a Bill O'Brien's Texans team come in there and go up 24-0. I've never seen anything
The good thing is they also covered in that game, so it was fine.
Yeah.
Won by double digits.
Let's talk total on this game. I think the total on this, this game earlier this year was not that high scoring.
No, it wasn't.
I think this one has much more potential to be a 50-plus game. I know Vegas has been very conservative on the totals this year as compared to last year when people were getting going. Anyone who was going under in 2021 was winning. It's got to be minimum 48.5. I'm going to go 49.5.
So this is the highest of the weekend, 53.
I'm surprised by that. I think that's actually a really good total. I was trying to predict what I thought Vegas was going to do. Haven't you noticed how conservative they've been with the high totals this year?
It's just a lot of points, but Kansas City does score a lot of points at home. And I think what they're afraid of is what if Kansas City jumps out to a 30-7 lead and Jacksonville's just putting up a bunch of garbage time points? That could certainly happen. I would be inclined to stay away from that one.
Yeah, I actually think 53 is a great number. Again, I was trying to predict Vegas, but when I think of the score of this game, it's right around there. I think I'd be more inclined if I don't want to bet on this game. It's too hard. But I would be more inclined to take Jacksonville to cover than I would Kansas City right now. I'm going to have to think about that. This one.
We'll come back to that one.
I think it's a walk away from me. Go ahead.
Saturday night. At Lincoln Financial Field, Giants at Eagles. Eagles, 7.5-point favorites. It's come down a little bit as the week goes on, but Eagles still favored by more than a touchdown.
I think that's fair. If this had been, where was it? Did you see where it was?
Yeah, it was at 9.5 on Monday.
I think I would have taken the Giants at that high. I don't know about you, but at 7.5, I don't know if that's high enough for me to take the Giants with confidence. That said, I don't think this is going to be a barn burner of a game. I see this game being like 24-21, 24-22, something like that. I think the Giants offense will show up. Let's talk total on this.
48.
That's a pretty good total. That's pretty good. It's not a big enough difference there. I would definitely be inclined to take the under on that as opposed to the over, but
I think this is the game that the Giants offense just doesn't look very good. That the Eagles apply a lot of heat with their pass rush. I'll be surprised if the Giants score more than 20 points in this game. I'll be surprised.
You might be right. And Philadelphia has a really good offensive line. But again, that interior pressure, if it gets there, that's different. That's a different kind of pressure. We talked about it. It might make things a little harder on Jalen Hurts, who hasn't played a whole heck of a lot. Yep. You know, he played this one game against the Giants backups. By the way, the Eagles didn't look good in that game, right?
Nope.
And then they have a week off. So the Eagles, you mentioned this in our last podcast, they might come out a little flat.
They could.
You know, so maybe they get down 10-3 at halftime or something like that and win in the second half. You taking the Eagles to cover here?
Yeah, I think they blow.
Bother you at all?
No, because I think they blow out the Giants. I think we get like a 30-13 type of game here. It's similar to what we saw in the first matchup where the talent for the Eagles just takes over. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a sloppy first quarter and it's 0-0, but all of a sudden AJ Brown catches 2 touchdowns or whatever. But I am taking the Eagles to win and cover.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you too much. I disagree that it might be 30-13, but even if the Eagles are up 10, I don't know how good the Giants passing game is to get an easy garbage time touchdown, which is how you always lose on those spreads, right? So I'll take the Eagles to cover on this. Stay away from the total for me.
All right. Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I love these weird starts. Bengals at Bills. Bills 5.5-point favorites at home.
I think that's fair. I didn't like the way the Bills played against Miami at times, but Cincinnati to me actually looked worse against Baltimore. I actually think Baltimore played a better game. Now Cincinnati's going on the road and their offense, also what's the weather for this game?
Supposed to be a little snowy, maybe like an inch of snow, not a lot of wind. So that's good, but it's going to be cold.
I like Buffalo by 7 here. I'm going to take Buffalo to cover.
Yeah, I'm taking Buffalo as well. I think with the state of the offensive line for the Bengals, they're missing their left tackle, the right guard, the right tackle. Burrow's going to have to get rid of the ball quick and throw the ball in the middle of the field. The Bills have 2 of the best coverage linebackers in the league, so it's going to be really hard for them to kind of dink and dunk down the field. I think the Bills take care of business here, and they'll face the Chiefs next week. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, the recipe to me for the Bengals to win this game is actually not to have Joe Burrow throw the ball 55 times.
It's to run the crap out of the ball, isn't it?
Yes. Use P. Ryan, use Mixon, hammer the inside of that Bills defense, and make Matt Milano, who's making plays all over the field right now, make him consistently have to stop the run. Then use that kind of old school, I guess, to open up the passing game. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. Big one. Cowboys at 49ers. 6:30 Eastern time at Levi Stadium. 49ers. Now, this line has moved a ton throughout the week, but it's settled at 49ers -4.
49ers winning cover on this. Could I see the 49ers winning by just a field goal? Absolutely, I could. The problem is, who's the more consistent team? And I think there's no question on that right now.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if you're laying your money, I think it's safer to go the 49ers over than the Cowboys to cover. I'm not saying that I think the Cowboys are going to get blown away here. I'm not. I could see the Cowboys making it really interesting. And if Mosher makes his kicks or, whoever the other guy was that they brought in, maybe a 60-something-year-old Mark Mosley. But
former MVP.
Yes. Former 1982 MVP. Very fun playoffs. By the way, he was MVP that year. He only missed 1 kick, but in the playoffs, he missed half of his field goals. Really weird.
But never trust kickers. It's just my philosophy in life.
To be honest, if this game is on the line, I trust Robbie Gould in the postseason. I do. Boy, big kick last year. How come he doesn't get the love like Adam Vinatieri does? He made the game-winning field goal in the snow against Green Bay last year.
He also made the game-winning field goal against the Packers. When the other game, not last year's game, but the other game where they beat him, it was close. Yeah, he makes a lot of big kicks.
I like Dallas. I mean, I like the 49ers to win and cover. First of all, let's just talk about that. What are you thinking about this spread?
Feels about right to me. I think it started this week at 4.5, 5. It got bet all the way down to 3, and then kind of creeped back up to 4. I think 4 is the right number. I think on a neutral field, the 49ers are slightly better than the Cowboys. playing at home after, having 2 days of rest advantage. I do think the 49ers will win. I think they're going to win like a 27-21 type of game where it's close all the way through. But I don't see the Cowboys getting blown out, just like I don't see the Cowboys blowing out the 49ers either.
I think a really key matchup in this game is the Cowboys running backs versus the 49ers linebackers. Kellen Moore's going to want to run the ball. First of all, does Ezekiel Elliott have juice for this game? He wore down at the end of the year, something you've documented probably too much. And then you got Tony Pollard, right? But Greenlaw and Warner is as good as off the ball linebacker tandem as, honestly, even as the Bills, Marcus, even as the Bills. And that matchup is huge because if you can take some pressure off Dak and the offensive line pass pros like it did against Tampa, Dak's going to make the throws. If they start pressuring Dak and we need Dak's mobility to be the 2018 Dak, it's not there, unfortunately. Whereas on the other side, I think Purdy does have that kind of mobility. He may not run, but the Cowboys, I think, with Purdy on the flip side, are going to have to get him on the ground in this game.
I agree. They're going to have to be able to pressure them with their front four as well. Like if they're blitzing Purdy and he's able to step back and make throws, the Cowboys have no chance. But if they can win with their front four and make him feel a little panicked back there, I think they'll have a chance. But yeah, I like the 49ers to win and cover.
Just one more little thought on this game. Another matchup that I'm going to be looking at is who's covering Ayuk, because you could talk about Debo and Kittle. I thought LVE played a really good game last week, getting depth, making plays. But who's the corner that's covering Ayuk? Are you running zone almost the whole game? Because that to me could be a big mismatch. And he's a little bit of the forgotten guy in that offense.
I think you'll see a lot of man and zone. I don't think Dan Quinn's going to stay with one certain style of defense. No. But yeah, the Cowboys don't have the corners to match up with.
That's what I mean.
The 49ers receivers. And if those guys are getting the ball in space with some room to run, they're going to win this game.
And we've said, Diggs had a great year last year in terms of picks, but he was actually a better complete player this year. But he's not the most physical guy.
No, he needs to tackle. Like if Dallas wants any chance, he did not tackle well against Tampa. He's going to have to play a lot better.
Thank goodness he's not going up against a physical receiver with huge thighs in this game. Sorry, that sounded awkward.
It's all right. It's fine.
Do you know what I meant? Can I circle back on a game here?
Sure.
By the way, we didn't talk total on Niners Cowboys. What do you got?
46, lowest of the weekend.
Again, that feels pretty close to right, doesn't it? Like
what's weird about the Cowboys and 49ers, these are the number 1 and number 2 DVOA defenses in the league, but both offenses could put up 35 points in any single game, right? So that's why it makes this one really tough to bet on.
Will you define DVOA defenses for our listeners? Not everybody is down with football acronyms from Football Outsiders like you are.
It's basically just like adjusted production for these defenses, weighting your opponent, game script, all that kind of stuff. How's that?
That was a terrible definition.
I don't want to get way too nerdy. It's basically just advanced stats for people that have no lives and just live on Microsoft Excel.
Not that you know anyone like that. That would have been a great time for you to sip your coffee and put on those yellow anti-glare glasses you have for when you're doing like serious Excel work. There they are. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Where's your Bills mug, bro?
Oh, it's downstairs. I let my mother-in-law use it last night. So,
all right, let's circle back to a game here. We didn't talk too much strategy on Chiefs, Jags. Just how do you see this game playing out? We just talked about the betting angle and not really the on the field stuff. Do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to hold his own against a defense that admittedly is not the best? Or do you think he might get the big game yips? What are you thinking?
I going into this week, I thought, you know what? I think Trevor Lawrence can kind of go toe to toe with Mahomes. And then he said in a press conference on Wednesday, I can't imagine Arrowhead being any louder than what Jacksonville was last week. And I was like, oh no.
Oh, no,
Trevor. Oh, you have no idea what you're in for. It is going to be so loud for that game. So I think Lawrence will be fine, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see some drives that are pretty shaky. And against Kansas City, you just can't go a quarter without scoring points because they could put it on you so fast.
I mean, bro, the guy that you saw in the pool at the end of the Jacksonville Stadium with the tribal armband tattoo throwing his kid up in the air, that guy, let me just tell you, that guy is wearing a Derek Thomas jersey, screaming his head off at Arrowhead this weekend. Yeah, I'm not with you there. What's the answer to Kelsey? That's what I want to know from the Jags defense. Who's covering Kelsey?
I think I'd put Tyson Campbell, their Pro Bowl corner, on him. He's big, physical. Maybe try to jam him at the line of scrimmage. That's probably the only answer they have.
This is probably a Juju Jerick McKinnon game.
I think it's definitely a McKinnon game, right? McKinnon's probably going to have to catch 8 passes.
Well, Marcus doesn't even like former Steelers. Just the other day, he was bad-mouthing Lima Swede to me. I'm like, bro, he hasn't played in 10 years.
No, Juju's had a really nice year. We should give Juju some credit because
I did before the year, and you told me I oversold it. I said, I think Juju's going to catch 70, 80 balls, have like 1,100 yards. I don't know what his final numbers were, but I bet you they're around there.
Do we have to fact check it right now to see what he did?
Yeah, we do. Let's see if Elliot was right. I said like 80 balls, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns.
He had 78 receptions. Good call. 933 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
Not bad. But still, hey, that was a really good year. They needed somebody else. They needed somebody else in the middle of the field to make a bunch of key catches, and he did.
He really filled the role that they couldn't get from Sammy Watkins. Correct. Honestly. He didn't fill the Tyreek Hill role. That they didn't run that kind of deal this year. They didn't. I mean, how do you do that?
You can't.
Hardman's your closest thing you could do that with, and he was hurt. Okay, so those are our 4 games. What is your most? What's the one that you're like? Okay, if you're laying your money down, I feel the most confident about X.
Eagles Giants, just because I think the talent differential is so massive compared to the other 3 games, right? Like we think the 49ers are the best team in the league. But the Cowboys are really talented. Same with Bills and Bengals. Those both teams are awesome. We love what Brian Dable has done, but man, you can go player by player. It's just not close. So I'll take the Eagles to win by 7.5.
I'm going to go with you on this, but I want to say you mentioned that the 49ers Cowboys got down to 3 like yesterday or something.
Yeah.
If you get 49ers as 3-point favorites, take that all day, because even if they win by 3, it's a push. Like there's no reason not to take that if you can get that. Okay, I like it. So let's review our picks. What do we do?
All right, so Jacksonville, Kansas City, we both like the Chiefs to win. I like the Chiefs to cover. You're a little bit more tepid about that, right?
Tepid. At least I'm not malleable. Keep going.
Giants, Eagles. I like the Eagles to win and cover, and you are on that as well. Although you think the Giants are going to make it closer than I do. I think we're going to see a Philly blowout. I think you think it's going to be like a 2-score game kind of all the way through.
You got it. Two-score game. Yep.
Bengals at Bills. We both like the Bills to win and cover. Cowboys at 49ers. We both like the game to be close, but the 49ers to ultimately win and cover.
Interestingly enough, I have a sneaking suspicion the Cowboys Niners is going to go a slight bit over that 46-point total. But I think all the totals were really well done this week, and I always try to give you guys a total. But I only have 4 games to choose from here, and also bear in mind, this is I think the danger in betting on playoff games. Vegas has a whole season of data plus a week of playoffs to know what these teams are.
And only 4 games to focus on, right?
Yeah.
So, it's going to be tough this week.
Okay, so we got a mini power rankings. You and Courtney were having this discussion. I know there's going to be controversial picks here. I don't even know how this came up, but go ahead, please.
Yeah, we were talking about, Courtney and I were talking about Top Gun before the pod started, and we started talking about our favorite 80s movies, and we were naming a whole bunch of them. And I put together my list in order from number 5 to number 1, not including Top Gun, because we talked about it last week. So I wanted to mention some new ones. So,
okay, but you're not going to have like dramas or whatever that just came out in the 80s. No, they don't really associate it with the 80s. I'm thinking like synthesizers and sunglasses and feathered hair here.
Yeah, you just wait. At number 5, the greatest golf movie of all time, Caddyshack.
Yeah, so this is a great movie. It's grown on me over the years. I used to like Airplane a lot more. They both came out in 1980. I always think of Caddyshack though as kind of like the tail end of the 70s. So I don't, but it is of all the movies you can name, I don't care what else is on the list. There's not going to be one supporting performance in any of the net movies you have on your list better than Ted Knight, who ran the golf club. No way.
That's a guilt.
I have a little poem I'd like to say.
It's a really good one. Number 4, a movie that is both near and dear to our.
Okay, Pookie. Yeah, go ahead.
I never slice. All right, next one. Yeah. First Blood, one of our favorite movies of all time.
I would not call it an 80s movie, but I like First Blood better than any Rocky movie. It's my favorite Stallone movie. I could watch this. If this, you know what this movie is? You're at home, right? And you go in your kitchen. You're like, you know what? I want to destroy some cheese puffs. Okay. And you turn on the TV and you flip past TNT, and they're having movies for guys that like movies week. And First Blood's already half the way through.
Oh, I'm watching.
You'll still sit and watch it. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Plus
number
David
3.
Caruso's in it. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
Number 3.
It's the redhead guy. Go ahead.
Rocky 3 is my favorite Rocky movie, but Rocky 4 is more of an 80s movie than Rocky 3. Before, Rocky 4 is my third movie on this list.
Well, this is an easy one. First of all, synthesizers, check.
Sunglasses?
Feathered hair, check. Sunglasses, check. Downshifting 500 times, check. And montages? A robot.
How about 3 montages in this movie? It's so good.
A robot that comes in and says, "Happy birthday, Polly." I mean, climbing a 20,000 foot mountain in one afternoon. This movie, there's a part of this movie that just feels like one giant VH1 music video, you know? Anyway.
I mean, actually, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure there's 4 montages in this movie. Because you get 2 training montages. You get one montage of No Easy Way Out when he's in the car. And you get a montage during the fight. So there's 4.
And let me just tell you, well, not to mention, doesn't the beginning of the movie show you the end of Rocky 3?
That's true. So we get 5. Montage? We get 5 of them.
It's 5. I don't know. The next time you and your wife get into a fight about the driveway, are you taking football too seriously, or, you know, whatever it is you kids fight about? I just want you to say this for me. She says something and you go, just look at her and go, "We go." It's like they did at the press conference. Just, you know, like that. Yeah. What's number 2?
The Breakfast Club, a quintessential 80s movie. I thought about Ferris Bueller's Day Off here, but I enjoyed Breakfast Club more.
Okay, so I don't think that you really enjoyed this one the most. I think you're pandering to your. Do you know how many times? Base.
Do you know how many times I walked down in the hallway in school and just put my arm up in the air like this?
Who's the best character?
Oh, Molly Ringwald. Yeah, Molly.
What about Allie? Is it Allie Sheedy who plays the girl that's like got dandruff and she's just a total mess? That was a really good movie. I mean, the principal's role was phenomenal. Both principals, the principal in Ferris Bueller and the principal in this movie, great acting roles. Although I really love the principal in this movie. I think the principal in Ferris Bueller's might have been a creepo.
He's all right. Number 1.
Hold on. You may not remember this, but you've seen Die Hard quite a few times, right?
Yes, of course.
The principal in Breakfast Club was the main detective, LAPD detective, who like was kissing butt to the FBI guys and kept going, "Come on, pal. It's probably just a depressed stockbroker. He's pulling your chain." Remember that guy?
I do. Yep.
He's just like the kind of guy that looks like he's at your gym, just putting tons of cologne on, butt naked. You ever have that guy at your gym? You're like, "Bro, can you like go?"
Well, that's why I talked about this with Top Gun last week. Like, was this just a thing that everybody just stood around in their towels all the time and just communicated with each other?
I don't know. I don't know. That guy had perfect frosted gray tip hair. Okay, next up.
It's like Iceman. Number 1, not my favorite not my favorite John Candy movie of all time, but I feel like The Great Outdoors is the best 80s movie ever.
It is very, very 80s style comedy. It's like a combination of situation and slapstick. I I mean, dude, the old 96er restaurant scene.
I was gonna say that the most rewatchable scene in the entire show.
That's a pretty good one.
You know, get the meat sweats.
Oh, and they keep cutting back to the last piece of fat on the plate.
He just got gristle left. Fat and gristle.
I'm thinking, when I think 80s movies, I think of Breakfast Club and 16 Candles. Those are like quintessential 80s movies. And obviously Ferris Bueller's is another one. My personal favorite 80s movie is probably Risky Business. But there's quite a few that you could just name on. Like Splash was a big 80s movie. If you ever saw that with Tom Hanks. Wasn't Big? Did you ever see Big?
Yep, of course.
I'm just trying to think of a couple more here. Oh, Can't Buy Me Love would be another big 80s movie. Revenge of the Nerds. The original old school.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Weird Science and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That would be like a Hall of Fame 80s movies. But I like your list here.
What about Ghostbusters?
I mean, yeah.
E.T.?
Is that an 8? I mean, that to me.
That's what's hard. It's like, do you count
drama?
Yeah. Do you count that? What about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
See, now I think that's an 80s movie. When I think of like 80s dramas, there has to be an 80s flair to it. Like Cocktail just feels so 80s to me.
I mean, the one that we're missing that everybody's going to be just yelling at. It's like Dirty Dancing, but nobody likes that movie.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Red Dawn. No,
that's sad. Dirty Dancing is just wildly
What's the
overrated.
movie? Somebody tell me on Twitter. What's the movie with Val Kilmer? There's 2 Val Kilmer movies besides Top Gun. There's Top Secret, which is a really funny comedy. But there was another movie where he's like a kid genius and he goes to college and his professor is
Real Genius.
Real Genius. Okay.
Yep.
Doggone it. You've seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I haven't seen it all the way.
I'm a huge Val fan.
Edward Scissorhands, I think, is 1990. I'll give you one last one.
Sure.
This was a very weird movie, but kind of like The Great Outdoors. It kind of stands on its own. Like Great Outdoors is like a really unique comedy. Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Is an 80s movie is a very unique comedy.
Yeah. Now, I thought about including The Shining because we both like The Shining.
That's an 80s movie.
That's 1980s.
80s horror to me would be like Leprechaun or,
That's why I didn't include it, though, because it's not really an 80s movie.
Yeah, my brother made me watch this movie called From Beyond that came out in the 80s, and this little thing comes out of people's foreheads like this. It was disgusting. Let's pull a football card.
All right. I got to grab them, though. Hold on.
Yeah. I'll talk while you're grabbing it. I really don't have anything to say. That's cool. So we'll just let Marcus grab his football cards.
Yeah.
Come on. What set are you going for? What box?
Oh,
what are we pulling from?
Of course.
Oh my gosh, that's an old school. What do you know what game that is?
Can you see it?
I can. That's Eric Davis. I worked with Eric Davis for a long time at NFL Network, but I can tell you the exact game that is, dude. That's the 94 NFC Championship right there. You can tell, look at the Cowboys gear in the background. Look at his so the 49ers are wearing those jerseys that have the black faded, what do you call it? Like black shadow around the numbers. And the Cowboys, you can tell, are wearing the star on the shoulder pad jerseys that you like so much. Eric Davis scored the first touchdown of that game. Aikman threw a pass to the right. Troy Aikman actually told me this. He goes, I saw the back of Eric Davis's jersey, which lets me know I can throw the ball. And he disguised his coverage, immediately turned around, picked it off, and took it to the house. And Cowboys were down 7-0 like that. Yeah.
Also talking a lot of junk on Twitter this week about the Cowboys. So there you go.
What, do you want to pull another card to make up for it?
No, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. I was kind of hoping you'd pull like 3. I want to see more than just an Eric Davis card. I mean, I feel like we deserve
one more. We got one more in this. Right?
I want 2 more. I want you to grab 2 cards.
I mean, we could pull like newer cards, but we're only going to pull.
I just wanted. I want 3 football cards
ready?
today. Yeah, I want 2 more cards. Let's go. What do we got? So how do you feel about that?
I miss offensive lineman cards a little bit. So this is
that Alexander?
Yeah, It's Elijah Alexander.
Elijah Alexander, Broncos.
Yep.
Wearing a Broncos throwback. So the Broncos 60s throwbacks had orange helmets with a white Bronco. Really, really unique look. What do you think of that Broncos look?
I wish they'd bring these back. I like the orange helmets and the orange jerseys. They look great.
Yes. So the orange jerseys had a blue and white sleeve. They only wore those uniforms from like 64 to, I want to say like 67 or 8. They didn't wear them that long. Okay, One more. Where's my last one? Derek Carr. What do you think about Derek Carr and Josh McDaniels? What kind of Derek Carr card is that? So we can tell people.
This is
a football card.
It's a Panini. It's called an illusion card, which I love. These are my favorite cards right now. They look so awesome.
It looks like the Bengals helmet superimposed behind him.
Yeah.
What set was that? Action Packed 95? The ones that you.
Oh yeah, I have those ones. Those are like they pop out of the card. These ones are just cool because.
Were the ones that you showed me, the Alexander and the Eric Davis?
No, these were
95 something.
95 Fleer Ultra.
Yeah, I could tell because all the teams in the league wore throwbacks in the 94 season because it was the 75th anniversary of the NFL. Yep. So the 95 football cards have a lot of players in their throwbacks. But getting back to Derek Carr before we get out of here, what do you think about what's going on there?
We got an article that came out from The Athletic today about his relationship with Josh McDaniels. And they said, I'll actually read the quote from a player on offense. Josh calls everyone out. It's why everyone talks about him being consistent. He would call out coaches, players. He would even call out the Water Boys, and Derek Carr didn't enjoy that. The Patriots' way of mindlessly going over every detail is now the Raider way. Josh is fair, and he will call out a player if they're not playing well. That was new for Derek.
I always give you the final thought on the podcast, which I'm going to do, but a reaction I have to that is I think I've been pretty consistent with you about this. In the real world, all of us, our listeners on our podcast, we have to compete. We have to put our resumes out there. We have to, if we don't do our job, I mean, maybe in Marcus's case, it's different, but if you don't do your job at work, you get replaced. You don't have tenure like Marcus does on Locked On Cowboys, so I don't have a problem with that. Do you? I mean, you've got to be able to handle that. And if the Raiders, let's say, kept Derek Carr and brought somebody in to compete with him, that's part of life. Everyone else has to deal with it. And I talk about this with first-round draft picks all the time. What's wrong with making them compete?
Yeah, I don't think you like quarterbacks that are coddled. And it seems like John Gruden maybe did that a little bit too much with Derek Carr. And that's why they mesh well. And I don't think Derek Carr necessarily performs the best with super hard criticism. So if it's just not a great fit.
I got to stop doing these podcasts hyper because my voice gets like this. I start getting all excited. So apologies, everybody. I'll go back to Sam Elliott. Anyway, do you have a final thought or
no? That's my final thought. We're good.
Yeah. Okay. We're out of here. We're like 48 minutes deep. It's time for us to roll. But as always, appreciate you guys. Good luck this weekend with your picks, your pick'em pool. Somebody sent me a note, Marcus, that I helped them win their pick'em league. Made me feel very good. I was happy about that. Marcus says go with the Eagles over the Giants, so I'll back him on that. But good luck to all you guys this weekend. Thanks as always, and make sure you catch Marcus on Locked On Cowboys. Catch him covering the Raiders for USA Today and PFF.com. He's at Marcus_Mosher on Twitter. I'm at Harrison NFL on Twitter, and we will talk to you guys later. Take care, everybody.